so high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world but keep the sky on your mind.
I think we're all set if I remember how to do this from last year. Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and happy 2025. We haven't seen you guys in a while, so hopefully your Christmas, your holidays with your family and your friends, and New Year's. Hopefully everybody got through that safe and sound. We appreciate you joining us tonight. With us tonight, we got Dave, Dan, and Alex, and then obviously myself. We got a couple news articles. A couple of things have been kind of progressing through the holidays, and I think some of it's kind of spurned from the stuff that's gone on in New Jersey. We've got extensions on DJI and in terms of stuff that's affecting them. And got another state that's banning DJI. So good times all around. So let me get my screen shared here. We'll go through some news. And then biggest point of topic, and I'm going to leave a fair bit of room for it, is an advanced NPRM, a notice of proposed rulemaking from the, help me out here.
Commerce Department.
Commerce Department. Thank you. And so we'll leave a fair bit of room towards the end. And obviously, if you have questions, we're just getting into it. I think it dropped a couple of days ago. We've started making comments on it, and we'll kind of go from there. So first up, we've got Texas Congressman pledges anti-drone legislation. So the chair of the U.S. House Homeland Security Committee, Representative Mark Green, Republican from Texas, said in an interview on Friday that one of his number one priorities for next Congress is passing his legislation enabling local law enforcement and states to take down drones. He was not specific on the measures of the Counter UAS Authority. Security, Safety, and Reauthorization Act includes taking them down. We know that Chinese nationals have operated drones inside of our country, he told a Texas radio station. We still need transparency on the issue, and we're not getting it. But urgency over drone threats has waned as more information reveals that an overwhelming majority of sightings were actually crewed aircraft, helicopters, or even stars and planets.
Boy, too bad they didn't shoot those out of the sky, right?
Social media has spurred people who seldom look up at the night sky to begin scanning the heavens and shooting video of anything with lights. While some sightings are, in fact, lighted drones, more information has also emerged on different segments of legitimate commercial drone operators who sometimes operate at night for various reasons. Conversely, concern over Chinese manufactured drones has amped up over fears that their technology could be used to spy on critical U.S. infrastructure. According to an online article in The Hill, however, GOP Congressman Green's bill also faces pushback within his own party against clamping down on drones. According to the article, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky last month blocked a Democratic measure to provide authority and resources to state and local authorities to track drones. Paul walked back on fears associated with a threat from drones and asserted that the legislation would excessively extend government surveillance authority. He said this body must not rush to grant sweeping surveillance powers without proper consideration and debate by committees of jurisdiction. So, if you're not aware, and I just want to kind of touch on this for a second, there's only very specific government organizations that are able to take down a drone. And I believe it's Department of Homeland Security and maybe the FBI.
And FAA themselves, if they so choose.
Yeah. And beyond that, you know,
DoD.
if there's, what's that?
DoD.
DoD. Yeah. But state and local authorities, they don't have that capability. Well, it's not they don't have the capability. They don't have permission to do that, because taking down a drone is the same, classified as the same thing as taking down an aircraft. And, you know, the problem arises of what happens when you quote unquote take down a drone, right? Where does that fall? Where does it come down? What kind of method are they using? Is it doing return to home? Are they trying to cause it to fall out of the sky?
What if that
You know,
drone was an aircraft with people in it?
Right. So, you know, and people in New Jersey are like, "Oh, we're gonna shoot them down." Well, yeah, that's not the best idea, pal. And so it present. I understand it can present a challenge, but ultimately, the goal of those agencies, state and local, would be to find the operator and ask them to bring the drone down, obviously. And really, that's a more responsible approach in most situations. But again, when people's lives are in danger, I get that there's a difference. But I think, you know, my opinion is we got to be careful with this. And, you know, remote ID is supposed to help with things like this. But again, you know, bad actors are probably not running remote ID. And while there's different levels of drone detection that don't require that, you got to understand that people are going to either hack those drones or just omit that and do what they're going to do, right? So, thoughts on this, guys?
Yeah, I think you're on target. We're now looking at 4 separate agencies: FAA, Commerce, FCC, and DHS, as all pushing the notion. And it's usually coming from their corresponding oversight committees in Congress as the ones charging the cause. And now the position is that this is a topic that would be considered bipartisan, in that it is supported by both Democrats and Republicans. That is usually the case when it gets to a bill, because it's so muddled and the congressional representatives are not too clued in. We now have Representative Stefanik, is, of course, moving out of her position as a congressional representative and will be, or has been, nominated to be the United Nations ambassador. So we still, with someone, the Texas congressman, a chair of a committee, as we talked about last year. These are congressional representatives and senators who are coming forward in majority positions, in chair positions, so they can get legislature to the floor and to committee very quickly. And that's absolutely what we saw with Representative Stefanik. So we're left with the remnants of what she did in the NDAA, as well as standalone legislation, and we can expect more. It's part of our work in the Drone Advisory Council, as well as FPVFC, to make this visible and make recommendations on what you might want to say to your congressional representative and senators, plural.
Absolutely. All right. Up next, we've got Nevada law restricts public safety agencies from using DJI drones, limits drone as first responders applications. So Nevada Bill 11, Senate Bill 11, effective January 1st, so a couple of days ago, places new restrictions on the use of unmanned aerial vehicles by public agencies and law enforcement. The law prohibits the purchase or operations of drones and related equipment from certain entities, including those flagged by the U.S. Department of Defense, for national security reasons. This includes drones manufactured by the world's largest drone manufacturer, DJI, identified by the DoD as a Chinese military company. DJI, of course, denies any ties to the Chinese military. So the law mandates that Nevada's Department of Public Safety establishes lists of countries, businesses, and entities from which public safety agencies cannot purchase or operate drones related to equipment. These lists must include entities identified by the DoD under the National Defense Authorization Act and any vendors or services prohibited by Nevada's IT security policies. Designed to align with federal guidelines aimed at addressing cybersecurity and national security risks, the law could have a significant impact on public safety agencies. Also, SB 11 sets strict limits on when and how drones can be used. Law enforcement must obtain a court warrant to use drones for evidence collection in areas where privacy is expected. Warrants are valid for 10 days and can be renewed upon showing probable cause. Drones can be used without warrant in emergencies such as search and rescue operations, imminent threats to safety, or during state-declared emergencies. So, obviously, this is going to be another state that shuts down DJI. I don't know how many states that is now. It's
3.
probably
Tennessee,
4.
Tennessee, Florida are the other two that I'm aware of.
I thought there was one more, so it might be 3rd or 4th. But yeah, getting some definite blows from the individual states, even though we're not seeing. I mean, we're seeing movement on the federal level, but I think states are kind of preemptively moving towards that in some cases.
And
so.
It's not that we're shills for the CCP. We would like to see the best equipment in the hands of public safety. And so the result of this is we're seeing loss of life and less effective public safety, and because there is not a good substitute for DJI aircraft. And just like in Department of Commerce several years ago, fleets are being grounded, which is just to me a travesty. So it's not something that's way in the future and try to work out a plan, get us there, understand that we need to become innovative. We need to meet this need with USA manufactured drones. These bans are stopping productive public safety today, and our colleagues in drone responders are take a similar tone to the one I just did.
Yeah, and I mean the other factor here is not just capable drones, but taxpayer effective dollars, right? So a DJI drone is fairly inexpensive for the package that you get with it, right? In terms of its capabilities and features, and something even substandard to that USA made is oftentimes 3, 4, 5 times the price. And it's just not an effective use of taxpayer money, right? So not to mention availability and parts and all the different things that one would need to really run an effective drone as a first responders program, in my eyes. So. But yep. All right. Next, Walmart ends drone up partnership, shifts drone delivery strategy. So this is coming from Drone XL. Retail giant Walmart has terminated its partnership with drone logistics provider DroneUp, including divesting its stake in the company, marking a significant shift in its drone delivery approach. The announcement comes shortly after DroneUp secured crucial FAA certification for expanded commercial operations. The dissolution of this partnership, which began in 2021 following successful COVID-19 test kit delivery trials, highlights the persistent challenges facing commercial drone delivery services. Despite initial optimism, the venture encountered substantial operational costs and logistical hurdles that proved difficult to surmount. By August 2023, these challenges forced DroneUp to significantly reduce its operational footprint, ultimately restricting services to the Dallas market. However, Walmart's broader drone delivery ambitions remain intact. The company recently announced an expansion of its drone delivery service across the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, partnering with established providers Wing and Zipline. The strategic pivot aims to serve up to 75% of the region, cementing Walmart's position as the U.S. retailer with the most extensive delivery drone network. So, one down, and still working with Wing and Zipline. So, but yeah,
Yeah, and
unfortunately,
we've talked.
another drone delivery tragedy, right?
Yeah, no, we've talked about the both Wing and Zipline as extraordinarily capable engineering teams. Wing, of course, very well funded, 440,000 flights, delivery flights in Australia. So very capable team. Zipline, very successful financially in Africa, specifically Uganda, delivering blood into places where just impossible to do it. So along our lines of how do you make a delivery drone viable financially, and Wing by working the entire ecosystem could provide the likes of Walmart the entire system, and Zipline has great experience and designs a different aircraft, it appears, for each of the specific situations. So lots of clever people, not an easy market to crack.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Drone detection takes spotlight with helicopters vulnerable. So this was an article sent to me by our very own Dave. And this is coming from Vertical Mag, which is a helicopter mag and online magazine. Placing drone detection sensors directly on helicopters could allow civil rotorcraft, including medical transports on time-sensitive missions, to operate more safely and efficiently in an increasingly crowded airspace, according to an executive from a company exploring the possibility. The concern over drones interfering with helicopters, especially around critical infrastructure such as hospitals, has been growing even before the recent raft of unmanned aircraft system sightings in the Northeast U.S., which led the Federal Aviation Administration on December 20th to ban drones from flying over multiple areas in New Jersey and New York through January 20th. The FAA said the temporary flight restrictions were issued for special security reasons. Chip Dick, Director of Sales for Drone Detection Specialist Airsight, said there has been a growing demand for technology that can track UAS and identify operators' position. Dallas-based Airsight hardware and software is deployed at corrections facilities, stadiums, hospitals, airports, and other venues where drones are viewed as security risks. Dick said extending on-site detection system which track drones using radio frequency, GPS, and radar technology to in-flight helicopters could have valuable safety benefits. He says, if I'm a helicopter pilot on a live system and I pick up a drone that's to the north of the hospital and I see it staying stationary or going that way, I can start vectoring that rotor and come in from the south. Time is critical when you have a patient, a life on the line. Obviously, that's the whole reason the patient is on the helicopter. Equipping helicopters with onboard drone detection technology is something we're exploring. I don't want to say infant stages because we've done some testing in the past. Let's see. On-site drone detectors are used by hospitals not just to monitor airspace around helipads, but for security more generally. Not every drone problem is caused by a bad actor. Thank you for admitting that. As an example, we've had many instances where you'll see drones around helipads at hospitals. Hospitals are generally in neighborhoods. Neighborhoods have kids. Kids have drones and go fly them, and they probably do what I would have done at 13 years old and say, hey, let's see how high this goes, not aware of FAA requirements. Let's see. In a recent violation of airspace rules by drones at Boston Logan International Airport led to the arrest of 2 suspected pilots on December 14th, with the Boston Police Department saying it used advanced UAS monitoring technology to track down the suspects.
So remote ID.
A Boston police officer specializing in real-time crime surveillance detected a UAS operating dangerously close to Logan International Airport, the department said in a statement. Leveraging advanced UAS monitoring technology, the officer identified the drone's location, altitude, flight history, and the operator's position. Sounds like remote ID.
Sounds like exactly what remote ID broadcasts, doesn't it?
Let's see. Airsight, while not supplying the technology used in this instance, works with law enforcement agencies to provide similar tracking abilities. Prior to joining Airsight 2 years ago, Dick worked for the U.S. FBI. So he said, and this kind of highlights what we talked about earlier. If you physically interfere with a drone by FAA law, it's the same as interfering with a Boeing, excuse me, 747 aircraft. It's an aircraft, although we have jamming capabilities and we have used internationally. If you interfere with the signal of a drone, you're committing an FCC violation, as well as an FAA violation. The capabilities to take over the drone, jam the drone, or physically take it down are there. It's just currently in the U.S., they're all illegal to use. There's nothing you can do other than get that pilot and have them cease and desist, which is why there's such a big focus on our system to get that information to you in real time so that law enforcement can respond. So,
Yeah, I had a bunch of comments on this one. This one,
yeah, go for it, bud.
I forwarded over to you somewhat tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
First, taking an aircraft out of the sky is against statute, so that's a criminal violation and it's a felony. So, when we hear congressional representatives from Maryland and New Jersey, I want to shoot those things down, not so good.
Yeah.
That is absolutely against the laws that those people passed and created. And it just brings to light one of the this article brought out a number of things that I felt were not reported and were in error. First is that counter UAS has a real issue in that we can find the drones, but what do you do then? To interdict, it's very difficult. If you take a drone out of the sky, it's going to land somewhere, and that could be just as big an issue as it bothering you in the sky. The other is that the situation around Boston's Logan Airport was two guys flying in a bando with DJIs. Pretty unusual to fly in a bando with a DJI, but it was aeroscope that was used to locate these two gentlemen. So, yeah, they could be picked up from a significant distance away. And just as you guys said, the data message that was captured is very similar to remote ID. So,
Yep.
Makes you so dangerously close to Logan. They were inside a building. So they were only picked up and only violating when they exited the building or entered the building. So that one was pretty inflated. Also, there are we had the privilege of spending a lot of time during the Beyond Visual Line of Sight Aviation Rulemaking Committee, which was 9 months of work that Dan and I spent with the Helicopter Association. And there are 16,000 helicopters in the United States. That's it. That's the total. So over 800,000 private aircraft, several million drones, 16,000 helicopters in the United States. So even so, helicopters provide critically important activities and support for folks around, but their position is absolutely a helicopter should always have the right of way, and a drone or UAS should always yield right of way to a helicopter. And so, as we were trying to establish guidelines and rules that we were suggesting to the FAA below 500 feet, the helicopter community was not open to a lot of compromise, mostly none. So, in combination with that, air traffic control has absolutely no UAS tracking officially. So they don't want to watch UAS, they don't want to look for drones. And part of their reasoning is they're not paid for it. They're already, very busy managing manned aircraft traffic control. So it's a legitimate gripe in my view that this is not what their mission is, to manage and track and keep manned aircraft safe. not to watch drones in the sky. So if you put something on an aircraft, I don't see the helicopter community accepting that for a minute, because that would hint that, you notice in the article where they said the rotor aircraft could alter its flight path to go around a drone. They will not do that, and they will not want to do that. And so putting a device on their aircraft to monitor a variety of drones, I mean, I wish this company Airsight the best of luck, but I don't see this as a viable opportunity, because this is an extraordinarily outspoken community, the helicopter community. These people these are dangerous, dangerous aircraft. They put their lives on the line all the time. They're flying really low in very dangerous situations to save people, to help people, to rescue, to do all sorts of things that are absolutely life critical. So this is a great community, and their passion matches the danger and the risks that they take. And so I don't see a helicopter community rolling over or adding a device to their aircraft to watch drones, changing their path, and and then there's also the inflation of the whole article about these the drone pilots are obviously careless, clueless, and criminal. Which
Well,
so
and here's the flip side, and bear with me a little bit. This is getting a little into the technical, right? But uh, a lot of hobbyist drones, and in fact, most of the drones that we fly operate at frequencies that are fairly in use by other devices, right? So you've got our control scheme is usually in the 2.4. We've got video in the 5.8. These are all areas in which Wi-Fi is prevalent. Like, I mean, power to them if they can distinguish between the two. But like, I feel like that's a lot for a helicopter pilot flying one of the most complex aircrafts in the world. Any number of helicopters fit that bill, and trying to track that, distinguish between that, and figure out what's going on around them, right?
all right, well, and you think of the numbers. So you're one helicopter in a metro area, and say it's
Hmm.
a larger metro area. Remember, there are 2 million drones across the United States.
Hmm.
What's the population of drones that you're going to see in the sky at any one time?
And
And
have to have to keep in mind.
as an individual helicopter pilot, you're going to be able to observe and
Distinguish.
monitor, and then distinguish, and then take action.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
So
So this was an article that's like, oh, okay, it's useful to me, and we brought this forward because we've been at this for 6 years now. We learned a bit more than we knew when we started, and this one is like, yeah, this is not, this is an unfortunate article. Um, it's it probably will get people riled up a little bit, but it's not productive in
mhm.
moving the ball forward in
Yep.
safety.
Good times. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes here. So let me scroll back up here. I'm not going to go through this whole article because we're going to dig into the actual ANPRM. So I love that they're they're still showing DJI Phantom 2s. Like,
It's great.
I'm
It's great.
gonna take a deep breath here. So anyway, Forbes, like, update your photos, guys. All right. So the Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security is considering a new rule to restrict or ban Chinese drones in the United States due to national security concerns. Chinese company, in particular the giant DJI, which dominates the industry, account for over 75% of the U.S. drone market, including more than 90% of hobby drones. Banning them would upend the industry and create a huge vacuum. Whether or not to impose restrictions will fall to the incoming Trump administration. What are the issues and the possible outcomes? So I don't think we need to go digging into how China won the drone race. I mean, DJI really kind of DJI Autel, but realistically, DJI developed and kind of popularized this. They made them cheap, affordable, feature rich, and accessible. So is really what happened. So DJI's Mavic quadcopters, which fold up to fit in a cargo pocket and can carry out aerial scouting missions against targets a mile away or more, quickly became popular with the military users. They're easier to use and more affordable than other offerings from the defense sector. And in 2017, Israel issued DJI Mavics to infantry companies. But later that same year, the U.S. Army banned service members from using DJI drones, citing increased awareness of cyber vulnerabilities. In 2018, the Pentagon issued a blanket ban on all commercial consumer drones in the military for the same reason. The fiscal year 20 National Defense Authorization Act set out expectations allowing such drones to be bought in some cases, but the concerns have continued and escalated. DJI has a large legal team and it does not take challenges lightly. When the Pentagon added the company to a list designating it as a Chinese military company, DJI hit back with a lawsuit saying it is neither owned nor controlled by the Chinese military. But the Senate is not convinced and gave DJI a year to prove that they are not a national security risk, and that was before the new rule proposed by the Commerce Department. It's worth noting that DJI drones are widely used in the Ukraine conflict against the company's objections that their drones should never be used for military purposes, but these are extensively hacked before being deployed to negate security issues. How serious is the threat posed by Chinese-made drones? They're not going to rise up and attack, but the Commerce Department is asking for a comment on the real risk before formulating its rules. Specifically, Commerce is seeking to discover if the Chinese-made drones poses an undue risk of sabotage or subversion of the design, integrity, manufacturing, production, distribution, installation, operation, or maintenance of information and communications technologies or services in the United States, or poses an undue risk of catastrophic effects on the security or resiliency of United States critical infrastructure or the digital economy of the United States. The biggest issue is that the drones regularly communicate with the manufacturer via the internet and makers issue regular firmware update. This certainly makes it possible for makers and through them the Chinese government to get flight logs showing when and where the drones were flown. In theory, they might be able to download images from the drones for espionage purposes. More realistically, firmware updates can include geofencing information to stop drones from flying in defined areas. These normally keep them away from airports and other sensitive locations, but can block off wider areas. In 2017, DJI placed geofences across much of Iraq and Syria in response to reports of ISIS using DJI drones to drop bombs. A similar update might effectively ground Chinese drones in the U.S.
So they're saying if an update might make it so that if we were using our drones for military purposes, they wouldn't be able to fly where we want them to.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it seems like they're standing behind what they're saying, right?
Yeah, they're saying they're stopping them from being used in war, which is what they're trying to get them to stop doing.
Right. Hobby drones are not the issue. Drones are widely used for smart agriculture, providing day-by-day data on each field, as well as inspecting pipelines, power lines, bridges, and other infrastructure. Drones play a crucial role in tracking wildfires and monitoring floods and other natural disasters. Some drones are starting to be used for medical and cargo delivery, and this is likely to increase over the next few years' usage in all these areas, creating a greater dependence on drones. Nobody wants an adversary to be able to turn off these capabilities at will. So they're afraid that China's just going to say, oh, you can't use our stuff because we're going to lock it down because, we're the bad guy.
But then early in the article, they admitted that most drones used in war zones had been hacked to work around those issues.
Right. So, DJI and other companies argue that they are not controlled by the Chinese government. In March, the new U.S. administration may decide otherwise and impose a rule banning their import in the U.S. So, what happens if, when the Pentagon banned Chinese drones, it instituted the Blue UAS project, which gives military buyers a list of safe, certified U.S.-made drones to choose from. This boosts the U.S. drone industry and ensures security, but at a price. At current scales, nobody can compete with DJI. As the drone economy is taking off and everyone else takes advantage of efficient, low-cost hardware made in China, American buyers may find themselves shut out. DJI's new Flycart 30 can deliver over 60-pound cargo to a site 10 miles away and is available for $20,000. 20,000 US dollars. There's currently nothing remotely comparable from a non-Chinese supplier. The question is whether US companies can step in and fill the vacuum, or whether it simply will not be profitable for them to try. The challenges of starting from scratch and the fact that they will have to compete with China in the export market may be too much to bear. Um, so, but let's get into it here. This is the listing on the Federal Register. So it's again coming from the Department of Commerce, Bureau of Industry and Security. So this is an advance notice of proposed rulemaking. So this is where they ask for feedback on questions, and then they will correct me if I'm wrong. They'll release the NPRM, which will include the rule that they're looking to enact, which will be open for comments. And then after comments are read, adjusted, language is adjusted, rules are adjusted based on feedback. Then the final summary rule will come out. Correct?
Exactly. And if the FAA can be used as a timeline guide, the time between the NPRM being produced and the final rule was a year, and the entire process can take 3 to 5 or more years. Part 107 was 10 years. Um, the we suspect that the Department of Commerce may move more quickly, and in addition, the Department of Commerce has at its disposal the harmonized schedule of tariffs, so they can issue, change, alter tariffs at the discretion of their own agency. No need for any rule changes, no need for a Congress mandate, no need to go to any other agency. They can unilaterally set changes on tariffs. And it would be clever on their part if they received input and said, well, based on input from the citizens of the United States, we're going to take these moves 30 days after they, for example, after they receive comments. So the timing on what all we're talking about is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is comments. Basically, we're going through it as an organization. We're kind of parsing through it again. We're getting started on this. Comments will be due March 4th. You can see right here, March 4th, 2025. In which case, they will go through the comments. They will write up the proposed rule. Again, comments will have a deadline for them on that. Very similar to remote ID. If you guys were around for that, that was a lengthy process for them. 35,000 comments, I believe, on remote ID.
53,000.
Or 53. Sorry, got my numbers reversed. And it took them a while to go through all that, right? So,
Happily.
yeah. And so we'll see what the timeline is going to be on this. It's not super lengthy,
It's
but
28 pages and 50 questions, and a
yeah,
significant percentage of the initial questions have to do with a definition. So they've cleverly identified an international definition for UAS, and they are tending to throw out or they're hinting that they will throw out the FAA's definition of UAS. This is important from a perspective of if you're thinking about, I'm a commerce geek, and if you've ever looked through the harmonized schedule of tariffs, you know that it's thousands of pages of individual components. So the better that they can get an identification of a component, the closer they are to supply chain and their world of being able to lay a tariff against a specific component.
correct. And that list is not fun to go through. Been through it multiple times,
Yes.
and it's
Yeah, where the
it's a headache in a
advanced
box.
where the advanced NPRM starts to really separate from the notion of supply chain, which is what its premise is targeted to, is when they start asking questions about how do UAS operators secure the data of their devices and how do they
Mhm.
retain data. So lots of hinting toward network, remote ID, to unmanned traffic management. So they do run far afield from the strict remit of supply chain. But as Josh has said, we've uh, taken out we've extracted the 50 questions, put them in a separate document, listing them, prioritizing them, and we'll have comments up pretty quickly. The way these comments work is we provide comments into the the Department of FCC through the Federal Register, and then it goes into a black hole. You never know what the comment was until the NPRM comes out, and then the Commerce Department will state, well, there was this comment, and our response is. So they'll select comments that they want to respond to, and then respond to them. So we are also working as a member of the Drone Advisory Council, and seeing if our other members have interest in working on this topic with us. That, of course, would include Pilot Institute, Aloft, Influential Drones, and Counter UAS. I think I got everybody. Yeah.
So definitely a big thing. Each area is kind of broken down into a section. So the first one deals with the definitions, as Dave was kind of alluding to. So question number one would be, in what ways, if any, should BIS elaborate or amend the potential definitions of UAS as stated above, which would be in the the area up above here.
Yeah, that one just
If amended,
annoys me a little bit because I just don't like the idea of different parts of the government having a different definition of what a UAS is. So it's like,
Yeah.
well, the FAA says a UAS can do this, and the Commerce Department says you can buy a UAS from here, but they're not talking about the same things. They might not be talking about the same things. And
right?
so it just makes it more difficult for everybody to function. But
Correct.
I understand that they're trying to deal with drones in a different way, and they might need to clarify more what they're talking about.
Right. So, so the first part deals with definitions, questions 1 through 5. Section B deals with risks associated with UAS, which only has 2 questions on data exfiltration and remote access control, which is kind of hilarious in a certain way.
That someone's going to take over control of your drone and either prevent
Mid-flight.
you from flying
Yeah.
it or fly it for you.
Correct. Threats posed by foreign adversaries. I think there's a significant number of questions here. And there's sub questions in here too. If you're interested in this, I mean, even if you just read the questions, the sections above each will kind of give their take on it. And then we'll dig into the question. The questions will relate to that upper portion. So, do other foreign adversaries, like this is an interesting one, do other foreign adversaries identified in 15 CFR 791.4, such as Iran, North Korea, Cuban, and Venezuela, propose similar risks to the UAS ICTS supply chain that BIS should consider? Are there specific persons or entities with a nexus to these foreign adversaries that BIS should consider? And then they deal with supply chain as well. So they are talking about one of the. Are you guys comfortable with me pulling up our actual document?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So here's where we're prioritizing questions, starting to formulate comments, and there's one down below here that. Let me see if I can get to it. Right here, the length of time it typically takes to conduct due diligence on UAS vendors, how long the design phase is for UAS, and how quickly UAS companies can make changes to the supply chain. This is part C of question 13. And the problem is like, what's the estimate on how much of the components that we use in any UAS, whether commercial or hobbyist, is coming out of China? 95%? Easily. So how easy is it for somebody to make changes to the supply chain? It's impossible, because nobody else is doing these components to create these devices. and it's if you've been here a while, I've talked about the cart before the horse a lot, especially when it came to Lance. And we're talking about shutting down supply of drones, let's say DJI, but we don't have anything of equal price point, of equal capability to substitute for it.
Right.
We're really looking to shut down something that we don't have any way of filling in that hole, essentially. So
And that this all assumes that we can you know, place tariffs, set bans, take unilateral action, and anticipate no response. And of course, that we've already seen in Skydio's case, they let a contract in Taiwan, and the Chinese Communist Party was not happy, and they slashed the supply of batteries to Skydio. So we can anticipate China using a range of retaliatory means if we pursue efforts like this to ban product.
and the scary part is like it's not just within the drone industry. There's a lot of stuff that China has access to. Let's say lithium, right?
Right.
That
Right.
not only
Or
would shut down drones, but just about smartphones, laptops, cars. I mean,
hand tool, power tools.
power tools, 100%. So,
Yep.
I mean, think critically before we really dig into this. Another fun question that I highlighted here was, how is the data collected by UAS sold or integrated into data markets? Well, data is probably the most lucrative thing that's bought and sold these days. Your data from your social media, from your browsing, to your whatever data that they're pulling from UAS. I guarantee you that stuff's bought and sold. It depends on the company on what they do with it, but what is going on?
Rob connected. and
Rob
he's a
is
little
joining us.
Oh, it's Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good. So, really digging into this, guys. There's a lot of questions here. We're starting to kind of formulate this. I definitely, if this is something that interests you, you're good with kind of parsing some of this, dig into it. Let us know what you think. Give us some feedback on things that maybe we didn't see, we missed. Maybe you have a different thought than we do. Tell us tell us what you think. And you guys are our community. You guys. We relied on everybody here for remote ID. Everybody was super awesome through that. And I would ask the same here is just dig into it, shoot us an email, let us know what you think. If you got a question where you're just like, I think, this is a proper response, or, did you guys think about this? Let us know. And we can take that into account.
So the timing of this is, as Josh mentioned, comments are due March 4. But we anticipate that the Commerce Department has the ability to respond whenever they want. In addition, the NDAA, as we mentioned briefly a little earlier, started as soon as it's signed into law. So the Senate, unfortunately, incorporated much of the anti-DJI and other. It's DJI, Autel, I believe, is
Autel.
named, and any licensees of either of those parties, plus other Chinese-based drone companies in covered countries. So China, Russia, etc. And that means Anzu as well, because they are a licensee of DJI. So that's unfortunate. The wording, and we need to go circle back and get it precisely, but it's my understanding that the interpretation is that a 1-year clock starts, and one of the appropriate intelligence agencies, I believe 6 are identified, must come back and state that, there's not a risk. And if there's not a risk to cybersecurity, then no ban will be put in place. So to me, this was duplicitous. I mean, what?
Well, and the flip
intelligence
side of that,
agency-
Dave, real quick, is that if none of those agencies decide to take it up, it defaults into a ban. So they can just say,
Exactly.
man, we don't want to.
Precisely my
It's
point,
an event.
which is why would an intelligence agency stick their neck out and say, "Oh, I don't think there's a risk here"?
Right.
Why not? Well, I'll just wait for the FBI to do that. Now, I'm not going to take a position on this. And worst case, there's going to be a ban, and that's bad. And so I'm not thrilled with the technique, but a 1 year clock start. So as I mentioned, there are a number of time-sensitive, time-specific pieces of legislation and rules at play. The NDAA is one that starts a 1 year clock. The advance NPRM comments back by March, and then we anticipate in the first quarter, that's 2025, the FAA's NPRM on beyond visual line of sight. So regulation and government affairs business could be quite busy in the first 3 to 6 months this year.
Absolutely. All right. Any other comments from you guys on this?
Not on this.
All right.
I just have
that's
one.
all I have. So yeah,
I have
go
one
for it.
piece of show and tell. So we now have a brochure, and thank you for the copy as well as the beautiful artwork that we have from Josh.
Very blurry there. But
Very
we get the
blurry.
idea.
It really is. It works. It's pristine clear and printed beautifully. And so we have been at a number of more business events as opposed to I'd look at something like Rampage or West Coast Throwdown as an act or a race, IO. Activities like that are a lot of fun. And we want to try to get to a couple of those, but we also participate in things like exponential and symposiums. And those are the median age is closer to my age rather than Alex's. And these old farts look for something like a trifold. So we'll create one for that type of event, or we have created one, and we'll be well prepared. So my thanks to Josh for the writing of that, as well as the whole production of it. And it looks very, very professional. So we'll be well represented. And
Cool.
I think that's all I had.
All right, Dan, you got anything for us this evening, boss?
Nothing from me right now.
Okay, Alex.
No, I don't have anything. But yeah.
Alex went from one side of the country to the other side of the country.
Yeah,
so...
now I'm the latest time zone.
Yeah. You
So
went
when-
from being
I
one.
did-
Are you in the other side of the country now, Alex?
Yes, I am in Alaska right now. In the
I am
hotel.
no longer
It's
the
not-
furthest west.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Did you want to share what you're doing in Alaska?
Graduate school at University of Alaska Fairbanks, and I'll be doing a research assistantship with Quasi, so the Alaska Center for Unmanned Aircraft Systems Integration.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
Very, very cool. Congratulations, Alex,
Yeah,
to a
definitely.
superb undergraduate. And now we're looking forward to admiring your work in postgrad.
Absolutely.
Rob,
one
anything?
interesting-
Anything? Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say one interesting thing from looking at Alaska with the FAA safety team and drone pros is I couldn't find any other drone pros in Alaska.
You're it, huh?
So there's a
He's
chance
the
that I
one.
might be it. But
So you'll be the leading
I don't
drone
know yet.
the leading drone pro in Alaska
And the
There you
youngest.
go.
and the youngest.
There you go. The one and the only. There you
But
go.
I don't know yet. So
Well, if that's
Well,
the case,
we'll find
they'll
out.
be well.
it
They'll be
seems
well
like-
represented.
It doesn't seem right that I'd be the only one here. It seems like there has to be another drone pro.
I'm sure you can find someone.
All right, Rob, what you got, bud? Anything?
Yeah, a couple things. First and foremost, apologies for delays jumping on late. We got caught up late operationally.
No
Second,
worries.
a couple of actually some exciting things. So on the FPV side, any Avata pilots that are out there on the Avata 2s, since we had our last meeting, they have pushed an update with a option that's called disable or enable landing protection. And for those of you that fly DJI equipment, you know when you get down, on a stabilized aircraft, when you get down to about 3 feet, you hit a floor and then you have to force the landing. So there's no way to fly 6 inches off the ground. So the way that we've defeated that tactically in the past is you can tape over one of the downward positioning sensors, or you can do what you call a skip landing, where you force it to land, throttle forward, and you can go underneath a low obstacle. Say you have a doorway partially obstructed and you need to get in a space that's 1 foot or below to pass something. DJI has finally, after years of begging, passed an update where now anybody, including y'all, if you have an Avata or that type aircraft, you can disable the landing protection, and it essentially enables a floor mode where you can fly a few inches off the floor. So you could fly underneath a vehicle, you could fly underneath furniture, things like that. So yeah, it's a cool feature for y'all, but it's a really good feature for us tactically because it lets us go places that we could not go prior, at least easily.
Cool.
So
That's awesome.
Pretty sure that didn't happen if you were flying in manual mode, though, right? If you're like with an
Correct.
Avata, yeah. If you're flying in the other
Correct.
modes, though, sure.
Correct. Yep, you're absolutely correct. So part 2, and y'all may have mentioned this on the news. If you did, apologies, stop me. Fort Wayne, Indiana, PD got the first in the nation BVLOS 107 waiver. Essentially, it's a shielded ops waiver under Part 107. So that is huge news. It hasn't been done before. That's going to kind of open the floodgates, and just like all great things, after one person does it, word gets out, and then lots of people follow suit. So it's another big thing in the public safety community right now. That's all I've got.
Excellent.
So on that same note of people doing new things, I think it's Red Cat. They got approval for flights for like research, I think, for their aircraft to be able to fly without remote ID, and it's like a 3-year waiver. So interesting. Definitely paves the path forward for flying without remote ID for research. Although they have to jump through some other hoops to utilize it. They have to file NOTAMs, I think 24 to 48 hours in advance.
Remote ID waivers, because I've done a few of those actually. So companies can, it's common for companies to be able to get an exemption to remote ID for part of the testing. It's in one of the subsections of Part 89. Talks about how manufacturers for prototype aircraft can test and do research on aircraft without remote ID enabled. And that process is just a simple email to the FAA. It's actually probably the fastest waiver or exemption you can get. You can get it in less than a week. You just email them, say, hey, need this for this, and get a response usually 2 days later saying, can you give us a little bit more information, or you get your exemption.
Right.
There's a YouTube comment asking if you can state again who got the waiver.
Red Cat. So
that Rob was talking about.
It was Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
So probably Fort Wayne Police or the public safety, all of public safety in Fort Wayne.
I'm not certain. I think it was the local PD.
Okay. Good for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. All right. Well, that's all I have this evening, guys. I think we've gone around the room. We are back for the new year. Obviously, we've got our work cut out for us right off the get-go. So we're going to be digging into that. Again, guys, would love and appreciate and definitely would respect your feedback on any of this. I know the content can be a little dry when you're dealing with regulations. We've been doing it for so long at this point. It's almost halfway exciting. And but if you want to dig in a little bit, give us some feedback, give us your thoughts on it. And we can definitely work to incorporate some of those thoughts into our final comment. And then obviously we'll be posting updates on that stuff on our website and our Discord, all of which can be accessed via our website. So you can get a link to Discord, or you can check our website for any updates to our comments. We'll get those posted as they kind of develop and kind of go from there. And I know in times past, which we'll probably do again, is we've posted kind of our work in progress and allowed comments on our work in progress. So I imagine we'll probably do something similar here because you guys are the community. We love the feedback. We're just the guys that like to read this stuff and comment on it and try and protect our rights to continue doing what we do. So, all right. With that, I will let you all go. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll keep you updated on where we're at. Thanks for joining us this evening. Thanks, guys, for being here, and definitely appreciate it. I love not being the furthest west now, so congratulations, Alex. And you get to be that guy, and we'll kind of go from there. Have a good night, y'all.
Great.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Get on board. We're soaring on top of the world. Dangerous times, don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.